We have some pretty cool things happening with a few charts. I want to share those with you and provide commentary. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and Santa Claus actually showed up at my house yesterday with a guitar. I said, "What are you going to do, sing me a song?" He goes, "Nah, it's just a little jingle." All right, we're going to take a look at SOFI, Airbnb, and Tesla in this video, so stick around for that. And then I'm also going to tell you about my Patreon and where you can find my options course, and then also about the Moomoo app. In the meantime, I do want to get right into the charts because that is the key point of interest for this video. So the first one that we're looking at is SOFI, and this is one long-term bull on SOFI. I think that it's going to do pretty well. You can see it actually had several really good days, even though we had a long top wick on here. We're into the 200-day. That could signal some bearishness. We had an RSI cross over 50, and that's a good thing. Let me toss this up here. This is the 5 and the 13 moving averages that you have on here, and these are the exponential moving averages. So this green one, crossing over the yellow one that's squiggling up through, that is a good and bullish sign for us. The RSI crossing over 50, also bullish. The things that are holding us back, let me zoom in a little bit more to see if you can see it, and I'll even grab the paintbrush here. This part right here, if I actually click the paintbrush, it could work better. There we go. This part right here, we actually found resistance at the 200 days. So crossing that is going to be important for us. In the pre-market hours, there's a little orange line across here. We're actually up above that. Now, up above that 200 day is the 50 day that's up here. The red is the EMA, the blue is the SMA, so exponential and simple moving averages, and those are darn close to each other. So for SOFI, do we have further upside? Well, the RSI, the momentum suggests yes. And what we have with the moving averages suggests that it's time to be cautious, that we are currently in a bearish position, possibly looking at a death cross coming up. And so we'll see if we happen to break up over that resistance and turn it into support. If we do, that is a good thing and a bullish thing for us. Now, if we go out to the weekly chart for this and check out the momentum there, this is also interesting. Remember, I said each one of these charts is interesting for a lot of reasons. We actually have higher low coming up in the momentum here. So we have a building of momentum. We want to watch the RSI on the weekly chart also cross up over 50. That would signal a longer term bullish trend. So we want to be watching for that one. Now, in the yellow lines that I have here are the $7 line and the $8 line. And then in between, right around that 750 mark is about where we find more resistance. So that would be more of a psychological, if it's not a perfectly round number, still those 50 cent increments, especially for something with a stock price as low as SOFI's, would be one where we could find that further resistance or support coming in depending on where your price happens to be positioned. So where do I see SOFI going? Let's go back to the daily chart here. So if we can break up above these moving averages, we have a green light up to $8 per share. If we cannot cross up above both these moving averages and the momentum can't hold out, this is something that could send us right back down to that $7 mark and maybe even send us down to this lower trend line that we have down here, down to 650. And so we'll see if we continue in this bearish channel that we have right now, or if we can continue upward, and that will be tied to the interest rates that we see through, I should say, the treasury yields that we see. That's going to be a big impact on what we have for SOFI. And like I said, I am a long-term holder, investor of SOFI, and then I also trade the options with them. I don't typically trade the stock itself too much on SOFI. I will play the up and the down on SOFI. I cashed in on a call option play on SOFI on the way up here, and so now I'm waiting to see what happens with resistance to find out if we're actually going to resist and fall lower, in which case I can use a put option in order to take advantage of that. I can also sell calls against this, and then we'll see if we do happen to break that resistance that we have and turn it into support, then I can actually buy those calls and ride this thing on the way up. So that's what I have for SOFI. Let's switch over from there to Airbnb. And this one I was talking with my friend Kiko over in the Discord, so shout out to you, Kiko, as we were chatting about this. Now, Airbnb, you can see a long-term support line that we have here. As a matter of fact, the last time we broke down below the 200-day, which is this long yellow squiggly line here, that was the first time that we came down through and retested that long-term support. It held, and that's good. And you can see that's been holding for a while, going all the way back to July of last year. As we look at that, and we only peekabooed down below that going into the end of 2022, and then since that time we've been able to rely on it as support. So where are we put right now? Well, we actually have something that looks a little bit like a bull flag happening here. We're going a little bit sideways but bullish on the RSI for the momentum that we have. However, we're against this top trend line that we have, and it's also a point of confluence with this $130 resistance that we have on the horizontals. The horizontal right here is down at about 123, and if I take down some of these moving averages that I have here to make it a little bit clearer, this blue line is the 50-day simple moving average, and you can see, if I zoom in a little bit here, you can see that so far we've really used that as some pretty hefty support between the 50 and the 200-day. But this faster moving average crossing down over the slower moving average that we have here, that's known as a death cross. And so that's something that we saw possibly happening on SOFI. We see it possibly happening on Airbnb. So for right now, that is something that is a bit of a bearish signal. We want to continue to watch the momentum that we have here. Should it cross down below the 50 for the RSI, and should it cross down below these moving averages, not only can we check out for 123 to happen, we watch that to happen, but then we have a pretty far fall from there. So that can set up for a really interesting put option play on Airbnb if it does play out that way. Should we break up over 130, then we have room to move and advance beyond that. In the bullish direction, we want to watch for that because that can leave us room up to at least 135. So keep an eye out on Airbnb as well. Put it on your list. Check that out. I'm going to take just a quick moment before we talk about Tesla because I do want to tell you about where you can find how I'm playing these markets, where you can see my trades. You can see them over at the Patreon. That link is down in the description. My buys and sells are over at the Discord. You can talk with me, and my other community members are over there. On the Patreon, I also have my options course, and I also have my Tesla stock price prediction and my NVIDIA stock price prediction is available as well. If you want to see where I trade my options themselves, it's on this platform called Moomoo. That link is also down in the description. You get 5.1% APY on your unused cash and up to 15 free stocks based on your deposit. All right, let's jump back out of there because I do want to talk about Tesla. I'm much more excited to talk about that. So let's put the chart back up, and we're going to switch from Airbnb to look at Tesla to provide some commentary there. Now, not only on the technical side of things, this move that we have isn't only a technical move, and I do believe that it is. The RSI is up above 50. That's a good thing. The 50-day, which is this blue line here, I said that if we closed above that could be bullish, and then the next day happened. We got big volume on it. CYBERTRUCK most certainly has something to do with this. So this action not only is technical, but also we have the CYBERTRUCK news coming up, and expect a sell the news event to happen. The thing to watch, and this is another thing I was talking with Kiko about this morning, we're very chatty this morning, was we want to see what happens with the CYBERTRUCK news. Most likely it's a sell the news event, but then when we look at the charts, we want to see that 50-day hold for further bullishness, and you can see this lower trend line that we have here, and if I zoom out more, you can see the bearish channel that we've been on this as well, and we want to see, we could possibly see in the near term coming up, we want to watch this 50-day here, by the way, start to change to a flat, then positive slope to see further bullishness happening. Should we break down below the 50-day, we have the 200-day to land on, which is currently sitting at about 223, but we do want to keep an eye on the momentum as well, the RSI, to see what's going to happen. So if the 50-day holds, that's a good sign. That's a bullish sign. So if we sell off following the news of the CYBERTRUCK, we want to see where we land. We want to see where we settle. We want to stay above the 50-day. We want to stay above the 200-day. And if we do, then we could experience further bullishness. And I think that the CPI data is going to be a further catalyst for us. We have PCE at the end of this week, by the way, actually Thursday. So that's coming up tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. with personal income and outlays. We want to watch that come out. Good news for inflation is good news for Tesla. Now, that's coincidental with what we have with the CYBERTRUCK delivery event, which I believe is 2 p.m. Eastern time, so 2 p.m. market time. So make sure that you check that out. Make sure that you confirm that through Tesla's website that that's when that event is happening. But I'm 90% certain that that's when that's happening, and we could see the stock price sell off as a result of that, either today or we could see it tomorrow, leading up to that event happening, or maybe the event happens and then we see that sell-off. But I do expect a sell the news to happen, and we want to see where we retest support should we get that sell-off. Should we break out the top of this channel, we have room up above that, much by the way that in the pre-market, we're at 250 right now, which puts us at about resistance at the top of the channel. Up above that, we have room to 255. 260. So we actually have some decent upside on that. And like I said, the inflation reports could tell us really good things as long as we keep on getting confirmatory reports that inflation is on its way out. So for Tesla, let's go out to the weekly chart since we did for Airbnb and we did for SOFI. We actually have Tesla, as I mentioned in a previous video, going up above 50 on the RSI. That is a signal of a longer-term bullish trend. So we want to pay attention to that. Maybe we finally break out of this little bearish channel that we have going on right now. Maybe this is the moment that's coming up, and maybe the end of November and through December is going to be very good for Tesla. We're going to have to watch for that. I think that there's a good possibility that we do, especially, let me grab the drawing tools one more time. There we go, trend line, and check out the RSI down here. If we break up above that trend line, that's a very good thing for us, that we start to take over these previous highs that we have down in here, that we can see continuous rising momentum. And should we see a drop in momentum, we want that momentum to stay higher than the last drop that we had. So it's a lot like looking at the stocks where you see where if you want to go in the bullish direction, you have higher highs and higher lows. So keep that in mind. Pay attention to that. I think it's very much worthwhile to look at. And Tesla, by the way, is totally still winning the EV race on things. And they also have a whole lot more going on for them in the background. And I'm a long-term investor in Tesla as well. I do trade options on them, calls and puts, ups and downs. And whatever earnings I get from that, whatever profits I take, I use that to fund my other investments that are out there. So let me wrap this up for you. I'll summarize this. SOFI, be on the lookout for that. It is possible we see continued upside, but we do have to get up above the moving averages in order to experience that, and then we can go back and retest $8 per share. Should we fail to solidly break those moving averages, it is possible that we see the death cross play out and we see further selling for SOFI, at which point in time I will watch for where that bottom is. I will be selling puts at that bottom. I will also be taking advantage of some dollar cost averaging throughout that time, because then we would be getting those cheaper shares coming in, and it would only decrease my cost basis and further my exposure to SOFI, which at this point in time could use a little bit more girding up than from where it's at right now. For Airbnb, we want to watch and see if we break through resistance to the upside, and that gives us room up to 135, or if resistance holds for us and we break down through the moving averages, the 50-day and the 200-day, because if we break down through those and the RSI drops down below 50 on the daily and the weekly charts, then that is something that could signal further bearishness for Airbnb. Keep on the lookout for that. And then finally, Tesla. I think we're going to sell the news from this one. We're probably going to peak out around 250, maybe 255, and then pull back from there. We want to stay up above the 50-day and the 200-day for further bullishness, and watch for that RSI for signaling the future direction, especially on the weekly where we see the longer term trends happening. For what exactly is going to happen with Tesla, it's not going to account for the smaller, shorter term fluctuations, but it will tell you to better expect bullishness or bearishness depending on its positioning on that weekly chart for Tesla. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you want to see how I'm playing the markets, get that link for the Patreon down in the description. Come on over to the Discord and join us. We'd love to have you over there. And then also don't forget about those free stocks and the APY, 5.1% APY from Moomoo. Thanks for watching, guys. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.